It's a new year and a new city council in town. 9 incumbents and 4 new members took the oath of office today, ushering in the most diverse group of councilors in Boston's history and the first ever with a female majority. Council also is swearing in a new president, Councilor Kim Janey, who succeeds Andrea Campbell as the second black woman to ever hold the position. She joins me now, along with 2 new members, Councilor Ricardo Arroyo, the first person of color ever elected to the city's 5th district, and Councilor Julia Mejia, who beat out her closest opponent for the council's 4th at-large seat by just 1 vote. Congratulations to all 3 of you. It's great to see you. I want to show you a picture from 2015. Here's a picture from 2015. You may recognize some of these people. And here's a picture of office holders of the same positions today. Look at this in 20. You know, it is stunning. When I'm looking at this today, a council president, why does that matter? I mean, they could not be more starkly different. In 5, you look at the smile on your face. In 5 years, why does that matter to people of Boston?
Representation matters. It really matters. We need to ensure that the diversity that is in our city, this wonderful diversity that we have, is actually represented on elected bodies like the Boston City Council.
So, can you give us 30 seconds about you, by the way?
Yes,
I
can give you 30 seconds about me. So, Ricardo Arroyo, the incoming, well, actually now current city councilor for Boston City Council District 5, was a public defender for 4 years. And so I really passionately did that job. I did a lot of work there. The reality was I was seeing injustice on a daily basis in a way where I understood it was systemic and policy-based. And I felt like I could do more if I stepped out of that role where I was able to have a micro impact but not a macro impact.
And we may know some of your relatives, correct?
Yes, my brother served and my father served and continues to serve.
Now, you were famous because of 1 vote out of, what was it, 45,000 votes?
Actually, it was 22,491 votes.
That's pretty close to 45,000 votes overall, right?
Yeah.
1 vote got you elected. So you're able to say forever what?
Yeah, that I am the face of what it looks like when you decide to go out and vote.
Yeah.
And that every vote matters. And I think that that is a lesson for all of us to learn. And I also happen to be the first Afro-Latina to represent the City Council. So when Kim talks about representation, I'm really looking forward to bringing that on.
Tell us a little bit quickly about what you did before this.
Well, so I did a lot of community organizing in the city of Boston. I also covered the presidential elections in 2000 when Gore and Bush were running, and that ended in a recount. So my life is full circles, because here I ended in a recount as well. But a lot of my work focused on community engagement.
You know, one of the city, by the way, in the spirit of full disclosure, as a former city councilor myself in Cambridge, I have to say I have proposed abolition of the Boston City Council in the past. So I want to be honest with you.
Do you still,
well aware.
Do you still feel that way?
I'm sorry, I'm not answering questions.
Yeah.
I know. No, and also, you have very limited statutory power. So what is the importance of the 13 men and women and the president of the city council? Again, when it's just really around the budget that there's formal power.
Right, but I think this city council has demonstrated over the last few years that we are willing to take on big issues, roll up our sleeves, get out there, step out, and really demonstrate our leadership.
Bully pulpit kind of thing.
Absolutely, and it matters. It matters. Just before the holiday, the women on the council, we wrote a letter around drug hair testing. That was happening, that had an impact for African American police officers that were having false positives.
Yeah.
By just drafting that letter, we got the change done. So now we will no longer use the hair test that was coming up with the false positives to do drug testing. So that's just one example.
I would add one thing to that, which is, you know, if the power of the purse strings is very important. The fact of the matter is, if the city wants to spend any city money, they have to go through the city council.
Understood.
And so I've always seen the city council as powerful as its members. If they're willing to actually stand up and make sure that they're fighting for budgets that are equitable for the city and for their communities, that's a different kind of power than if they're just saying, hey, here's a budget, and it gets passed. If you abdicate that power, then you are powerless.
Would you all describe yourself as supporters of the mayor? How would you describe your relationship to the mayor, starting with you, Councilor?
I think I have a really good working relationship with the mayor. Over the last 2 years, was able to work with him on a number of initiatives, namely my legislation that we got passed at the end of the last session, which I'm really proud of. That was the equity in cannabis legislation.
How do you feel? How would you describe your relationship, Julia, starting with you, Councilor?
I mean, every single forum that I was in, I always said that I gave him a C. C+, C-. I think that my relationship with the mayor, I would say that I'm really looking forward to being more collaborative. I think.
Did you vote for him a couple of years ago?
I'm not telling you who I
Why
voted
not?
for.
Why wouldn't you?
I actually worked hard
So
for
that
his
the answer is
campaign.
no, right?
I worked hard for him for his first run for
Did
the
you vote
mayor.
for him against
But I had
Jackson?
some reservations about the mayor second go around.
Did you
I think
vote for him?
Well, let me finish.
I
think I'm looking for an opportunity to rebuilding a relationship with the mayor. I think we have an opportunity to really lead with our values.
Did you vote for him?
So before I get into who I voted for,
No one's telling me, so just move on.
I think
Go
the
ahead.
relationship is actually productive. My goal is to be productive with the mayor. What I've said publicly and I've repeated privately is in the things where we agree, and there are places where we agree, I expect to push very hard on those things. In the places where there's disagreement and where I think that perhaps the stances are not what's best for the city or my neighborhoods,
Understood.
I'm going to push very
Tell
hard.
you
very
that,
publicly
one thing
on
that
that.
concerns me a lot, you had a great quote, I think it was in Adrian Walker's piece, when you're talking about your one vote margin. I just want to make civic engagement sexy again. It wasn't that sexy on election day. 16% voting, which is, to me, pathetic. I know it's an increase. What do you do in your job starting today to ensure that in 2 years, more people decide that what you do matters enough to get off their behinds and go vote?
Yeah, so I think that the way we ran our campaign was really intentional about making sure that people who are normally not invited to the table or have a seat in these spaces. So we were in nail salons, barbershops, laundromats, really thinking non-traditional ways to engage
But
people.
5 out of 6 of them decided not to show up.
Absolutely, but what's important to recognize is that more people of color are voting. So we are seeing turnout was up in my district.
Turnout was up in my district, too.
And if you look at the map, Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, Hyde Park, these are the areas where I ran and did really well in. Though we had an uptick in the number of people that came out to vote. So when black and brown people go out and vote, we actually do elect people that represent.
I noticed that.
Okay?
So can I quickly, we only have a couple minutes left. I know you've all spoken in your campaigns about housing and transportation, you and your, obviously you serve. Quickly going down the list, do you support the reintroduction of rent control in the state? We know the voters abolished it. Do you? You do?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you?
We have to do something.
That's
We
right.
have to
Is
have
rent control a part of it?
I think so. It's protections, and the mayor has done something now around eviction protection, so that's great. We've got to make sure that tenants have protections if they do find themselves getting, in a court case with a landlord and being thrown out on the street. We need to do something. The rents are too damn high.
That's right.
I've heard that one in some way.
Yes.
Jimmy
And it's
McMillan,
true.
maybe.
It's true.
And one last
also
thing,
very accurate.
Boston
It's
Globe
true.
editorial. I guess following up on your colleague Michelle Wu's proposal to have all the tea free, suggested that certain bus routes, a la Lawrence, Massachusetts, be free. Starting
Absolutely.
Would
So
you support
Michelle
that kind
and
of thing?
last year we did the 28 bus route free. So we definitely want to do that, and I mentioned that in my remarks today.
You did.
I believe it is incredibly important to ensure free buses within the city of Boston.
Do you both agree?
I agree with that.
So,
Yes.
but can I take it one step further?
Yes, you may.
I think it's important to have free buses, but I also think that we need to rebuild the infrastructure because there are in certain pockets of the city we don't have enough buses that are serving low-income communities.
Okay, we only have a minute left. Very quickly going down the list. In 2 years, what should we judge you on, Councilor?
Well, my ability to create meaningful, community-centered pathways for decision-making processes in City Boston. I feel like people who are most impacted really need to be the ones sort of driving the conversation.
Councilor, how about you?
I've spoken very publicly that I want to be judged on whether or not the decisions that I'm making are just and equitable. And when we live in a city where there's such clear income discrepancies between people of color and white residents, where we have such a terrible displacement numbers, when we're looking at all those different things, I see that as part of my responsibility and something to judge me on.
15 seconds. How about you?
I will build on both of those. I agree with that, but I think we also we are legislators. We need to make sure that we are passing a good, sound policy that is equitable and that works for the residents of this city.
Congratulations on a really important day to all of you. It's really exciting to have you here. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Councilor.
Thank you.
Councilor and Council President.
Thank you
Really
very
a thrill
much.
to have you all here.